Brigadier General Gunnbjorn. The Trollbloods have suffered for decades at the hands of outsiders, and the Infernals Invasion was yet another human atrocity that punished the Creels. The Infernals had not come to Cain for their souls, but the cosmic horrors still slaughtered the children of Dunia whenever their forces crossed paths. During this turmoil, a Trollkin hero rose to the occasion and organized a proper military operation to force the Infernals out of Trollkin lands and far from the worshippers of Dunia. Brigadier General Gunnbjorn has negotiated wartime peace treaties with other non-Trollkin Dunia worshippers, such as the Savage Pharaoh, and assembled an army that is greater than the enemies of the Creels have ever seen before. He will stop at nothing until the world is rid of the otherworldly menace or anyone else who dares threaten his people again. So he's upgraded a lot, and his ability to, well, basically kill Infernals is always useful. So I'm glad that he rose up to kind of take on the Infernals, because I feel like a lot of warcasters kind of stopped before then, before the Infernals Invasion, and he rose to hit him up man to man. So, but let's read his Mark 3 to Mark 4 changes and see what interesting abilities he has added on to himself. And of course, we will start with his stat line. He's still a speed 6, still a mat 6, still a rat 7. I guess they upgraded that in this version. They just ran it back to the back version. They've done that a couple times before. His defense is still a 15, arm is still a 16, arc is still a 6, control range still 12. He's still tough since he is still a troll. His abilities, he still has a battle plans, and his battle plans are bring it down, range 5, target friendly faction warrior/unit. If the target/unit is in range, it gains combat engineer for 1 round. A model with combat engineer gains an additional die on its damage rolls against buildings and structures, which sounds cool, but its original version was a little bit better in my opinion. But maybe they figured we're gonna have more buildings and structures in Mark 4. I don't know. But the original version was it would target 1 warrior model, and that guy immediately makes a range attack, and those attacks are boosted, both attacks and damage rolls. So very dangerous indeed. Looks like we removed the relay coordinations. So that one had a range of command, target friendly faction unit. If the unit was in range, they would gain hunter, so they would ignore cover and concealment when making range attacks. That's been removed. Then the other one that was removed was unload. Also a range command, target friendly faction war beast. And if the war beast is in range, its ranged weapons gain a +1 to its rate of fire. So it allows it to shoot an additional time, or however many additional times is on its rate of fire already. So those 2 have been removed. The ones that have been added, we get combat coordination. So target friendly faction warrior model. If the target is in range during its activation of the turn, it can re-roll 1 attack and damage rolls. Then the combat coordination expires. Now, that is a very useful ability, because I've had some very terrible rolls for attacks and damage rolls, and having the ability to re-roll very low damage rolls is always a very useful. And then the last of the battle plans that he's gotten is Precision Strike. So while within 10 inches of this model, friendly models ignore other models when determining line of sight. And then friendly models can advance through other models within 10 inches of this model if they have enough movement to get completely past them. And as we discussed on Grizzle, that ability is phenomenal for Trollkin, because they're all very medium to large bases on most of these guys. And having the ability to see through each other and move through each other is very good, because they do block each other very well, being such large bases. So unfortunate changes on the battle plans, but added precision strikes. That's actually very, very useful. So, but let's see what his weapons are and see if they've gotten any better. Alrighty, we have his Liberty Rifle, and this thing is a beast of a weapon. He still has a rat 7, still has a range of 12, still has a rate of fire of 1. Although they did nerf down the power to a POW 10 from a POW 12, but this is an armor-piercing weapon, so that nerf does make a little bit of sense. So when calculating the damage of this weapon, you have the base armor stat of models hit. So if he's a 16, it turns down to an 8. If he's a 20, drops down to a 10. So yeah, this guy's just doing remarkable damage with his Liberty Rifle. So, and then he still has a Thunderbolt. So enemy models hit are pushed D3 directly away from the attacking model. On a critical hit, the enemy model becomes knocked down after being pushed, which, you know, you can fish for crits on that even while you're fishing for damage too if they survive. So really good at knocking down enemy war beasts and warjacks, or knocking down warlock models or other warcaster models. Very dangerous. Then he still, of course, has his basic axe. It's still just a, POW 11. It's not really anything too crazy. But let's see his feat and see if that has changed at all. And yes, actually, this is one of the few warcasters that warlocks that their feat has changed significantly. So it has gone from bombing run to shock and awe. The original bombing run, which was pretty broken. Well, I wouldn't say broken, but definitely a great way to utilize AoE weapons. But so bombing run gave you reposition 3. So after you finished your activation, you got to move 3 inches, and then it gave you full force. And this is every friendly faction model in his control range got this. So full force is the power of blast weapons caused by the weapons with full force is equal to the actual POW of the weapon. Now, I can understand in Mark IV, the POW is now no longer halved. It has different abilities, so maybe that's why they took this out, because it really dealt with that. But I tell you, being able to blow somebody up with a POW 14 and then everybody hit is a POW 14, that's a very busted tool there. And I can see some people playing that up quite a bit, but that's been removed. And we've gotten to shock and awe. So while in Gunnbjorn's control range, friendly faction models can re-roll their attacks and damage rolls. So each roll can be re-rolled once. So they can re-roll, well, every attack. So if you have lots of guns going or lots of attacks going, you can, roll it up if they roll low, or you can try to get crits easier if you're, boosted to, fishing for crits. There you go. But yeah, so that's been changed up quite a bit. But let's see his spell list, see if that has been moved around either. Alrighty, looks like we got a spell back. It's called Explosivo. Looks like they changed it up from his version 1. So we read about his version 1 a little bit ago. But we're going to go, his new ability cost 2 focus instead of the 1. It is still upkeepable. Target friendly faction models' ranged weapons gain damage type magical. And if the affected model directly hits and boxes an enemy with an attack from a ranged weapon, models within 2 of it are boxed, and 2 of the boxed models, they're not boxed, suffer an unboostable power 8 magic damage roll, and then the boxed model is removed from play. So, and that's within 2, so if you hit that in the middle of a unit, it's no longer an AoE, it's just everything within 2 inches. So that's actually a little bit more powerful than an AoE. So yeah, that sounds like a spell that definitely needed to cost a little bit more than the original. And just for reference, the original, if the affected model is directly hit and boxed by an enemy attack, boxes an enemy model with an attack, you have to center a 3-inch AoE on that model, and then it's removed from play, and then the AoE, everybody in it suffers a power 8. So technically this one's actually just pulling back to its original version, but just giving it just slightly more range on that weapon. And I imagine if you box, say, like a large scale model, let's say like a war beast, that is a lot bigger. That is a lot bigger 2-inch swing around than a small model. But you guys can play that up how you want to play that up. And if you guys have some really nice looking range attacks, well, it's very useful to have. Alrighty, and looks like some other spells have been removed and replaced with some other stuff. So Expose has been removed. So Expose was a 5-inch AoE that was upkeepable, but while in the AoE, enemy models lose and cannot gain stealth or shield guard, and do not gain bonuses from spells, including animi that add to their armor or defense. And I understand they probably removed this since shield guard's not really, well, it's still a thing, but I imagine this is just kind of a busted spell because it's a 5-inch AoE template. And then Foxhole was also removed, which is a buff for your guys. It gives them cover and then gives them blast resistance, basically. So, but yeah, that one's been removed, probably because the wording is probably the reason that it was removed from Mark IV. Probably just change it up. And then Relentless Barrage has been replaced as well. That one is a target war beast in the model's battle group that is in its control range can immediately make 1 basic melee or ranged attack and that's it. That's kind of a it's kind of a one-off spell. I feel like there are other spells like that will raid better anyway, but those have been removed. Here's what we replaced it with. We got High Ground. So on this one, it is a cost 2 range control, and it's upkeepable, so that's great. So you place a 3-inch template anywhere completely within the spellcaster's control range. The template remains in play for as long as it's paid for. While completely within the template, models gain a +2 defense against ranged and arcane attacks, which is good that they are both ranged and arcane. And their ranged weapons gain arcane fire. So if you guys don't already have arcane fire, since you're on the high ground, you get arcane fire while you're within that AoE. So that's kind of nice. So yeah, no, it's a solid spell for, especially, you know, he is a ranged guy, so having arcane fire, you can shoot over other models and ignore intervening, so that's kind of nice. Alright, and then we were given Mage Sight. So while in the spellcaster's control range, models in his battle group gain Eyeless Sight. All of them, not just one, every one. And it's upkeepable too, so having Eyeless Sight against guys that have, like, say, stealth is always phenomenal to have. And it also ignores things like cloud effects too, so if somebody tries to, you know, block their people with cloud effects, Eyeless Sights don't see clouds. Very dangerous, a lot more dangerous than others. Really pushing him towards the full, you know, ranged armies, so yeah, you should check him out for those. Then, his last spell, he was given Open Fire, which was the better spell I was talking about. Target cohort model in his battle group that is in his control range can immediately make one basic ranged attack, and a model can only be targeted by open fire once per turn. So what's nice about this one compared to the Relentless Barrage is this cost is 1, and basically you can just spend 1 to, you know, have you know, any number of guys shoot, you know, as long as you're paying 1 per guy. So you can get a bunch of different ranged attacks out without having to have a better, you know, rate of fire on them. So I guess this is probably why they replaced his battle plan for the unloads, because they gave him a spell that just takes care of it with 1 focus, so that's probably what it was. But yeah, no, this guy is super dangerous for a ranged guy, and we haven't seen too many Trollkin that are super ranged. A lot of them are very melee based, but yeah, this guy is definitely a, you know, full force ranged guy, and he's definitely good with ranged war beasts. So